The universe had always been a place of war. The stars were full of power struggles, ancient grudges, and endless conflict. But today, in the outer rim of the Zirian system, the galaxy was about to witness something far different. The battle had been fierce. The Zirian forces, led by their elite reconnaissance unit, had encountered an enemy transport ship deep in Zirian territory. It wasn't supposed to be there. Intelligence suggested it was a Terran vessel, one of the few human ships that dared venture into Zirian space. Captain Thalari, the leader of the Zirian unit, stood on the edge of the wreckage, surveying the damage. Her heart pounded as her sharp eyes scanned the battlefield. Alien bodies littered the ground, the remnants of fierce combat. It was a familiar scene, one she had witnessed many times, but something about today felt different. There was a strange energy in the air, a pull, something that made the hairs on the back of her neck stand on end. She had seen the aftermath of battle many times, but this time there was a human among the dead, a Terran soldier lying unconscious among the rubble. His face was dirty, his armor cracked and scorched, but his chest rose and fell with shallow breaths. He wasn't dead yet. "Captain," came the voice of Dr. Orcs, the Zirian medical officer, who stood beside her. "We should leave him. We don't know what he could be carrying. A Terran? Here? It's far too dangerous." But Thalari wasn't listening. She felt something pull her toward the soldier. The human was no stranger to danger, she knew that. Zirian warriors respected the Terran, military for their sheer bravery and strength, even if their tactics were often reckless. But there was something else about this soldier. Something hidden beneath the blood-stained armor. Without a word, she motioned for the soldiers to carefully move him. Her sharp eyes flicked over to her second-in-command, Lieutenant Elan, who hesitated for a moment before obeying. "We're taking him," Thalari ordered, her voice firm. "He's not dead yet." The soldiers worked quickly to get the human into a secure transport shuttle, careful not to jar his injured body too much. Thalari followed them aboard, her mind racing with questions. What was a human soldier doing in this part of space? How had they managed to get so deep into Zirian territory? As the shuttle lifted off, Dr. Orcs worked on the soldier's wounds, muttering to himself in Zirian. The human's injury was strange, unlike anything Thalari had ever seen. The wound was still fresh, but there was something peculiar about it. The edges of the cut glowed faintly, a soft blue light flickering as if it had a life of its own. Is it infected?" Thalari asked, her voice tinged with concern. Dr. Orcs paused, his eyes widening as he studied the wound. "It's not an infection," he said slowly. "It's something else. I've never seen anything like this before. It's almost as if the wound is alive." Thalari leaned in, her sharp gaze focused on the strange injury. The human's body seemed to pulse with a quiet energy, as if responding to something. Her fingers itched to reach out, to understand what was happening. But she hesitated, wondering if it was wise to touch him. She knew very little about humans, and even less about their strange biology. She looked over at Lieutenant Elan, who was seated nearby, eyes wary. "What do you think? Should we try to heal him?" Elan's eyes darted between the soldier's body and Thalari's face, his expression uncertain. "Captain, we don't know what we're dealing with. We shouldn't take unnecessary risks." Thalari considered his words carefully. The human could very well be dangerous, but that wouldn't stop her. She felt an overwhelming need to understand what was happening to him, to understand what was inside him. "We need answers," she said firmly. "Let's take him to the medical bay. If he's truly a human soldier, then he has the strength to survive, and I need to know how." As they arrived at the ship's medical bay, Thalari gave a quick order to secure the area. No one else would be allowed near the soldier until they understood what was happening. Dr. Orcs began to work on the soldier, carefully removing the damaged armor and cleaning the wound. Thalari stood at the foot of the bed, her eyes fixed on the human as Orcs worked. The soft glow from the wound continued to pulse, flickering in time with the soldier's heartbeat. Thalari's curiosity got the best of her. She stepped forward slowly, extending a hand toward the wound. At that moment, something extraordinary happened. The wound, which had been still and quiet, suddenly reacted. The blue light flared brightly, almost as if it was reaching for her. A wave of energy surged through the air, and Thalari felt it, a strange warmth like a magnetic pull. She jerked her hand back, startled. What was that? She had never felt anything like it before. Eric's froze, his eyes wide. What just happened? Thalari's heart pounded in her chest as she looked down at the soldier's wound. It was almost as if it had recognized her presence. We need to find out what this is, Thalari said softly, her voice filled with awe and uncertainty. This is more than just an injury. This is something different. As the soldier's wound continued to pulse, both Thalari and Eric's realized that this human might hold the answers to something far greater than they had imagined, something that could change everything. The atmosphere in the medical bay was tense as Captain Thalari stared at the human soldier, his wound still glowing faintly. The pulse of light seemed to respond to the movement around it, a steady rhythm that grew stronger with each passing moment. Thalari could feel the pull, an unfamiliar energy coursing through the air. It was as if the wound were more than just an injury. It was something living, something that had its own will. Did you see that? Dr. Eric's asked, his voice full of awe as he carefully examined the human's wound. The soft hum of the healing equipment filled the room, but the strange light from the injury seemed to drown out everything else. It's like the wound reacted to you, Captain. Thalari didn't know how to answer. It wasn't just the glow. It was the sense of recognition she had felt when she reached toward the soldier's injury, as if something deep inside her had stirred. Something ancient. Something that connected her to him in a way she didn't understand. But it wasn't just her, it was the wound itself. I felt it, Thalari finally said, her voice low. It was almost as if it knew me. Eric's paused in his work, his eyes narrowing as he looked at the captain. You think it could be linked to your species somehow? I don't know, Thalari admitted, but it's not like any inch then flicked to the glowing wound on his side. What's wrong with me? He muttered, his voice tinged with panic. What happened to my arm? It feels strange. Thalari hesitated. You were injured. But something is different about your wound. We don't know why it's glowing or why it reacted when I touched it. The soldier's expression was one of confusion, followed by disbelief. Glowing? That's impossible. I don't... He stopped himself, as if realizing he wasn't in a position to question anything right now. His body seemed to relax, but his eyes never left the captain's face. It's not impossible, Thalari said softly. You're not the only one who's confused. We're trying to understand what's happening, but we need your help. Your wound, it seems to have something to do with you. It's like it's reacting to something, but we don't know what. The human turned his head slightly, wincing from the pain. Help? What kind of help do you need? I don't even know who you are. I don't even know where I am. Thalari sighed, frustrated by the soldier's confusion. But she understood. He had been through a lot, and his body was still recovering. He needed time. And answers. I am Captain Thalari of the Xerian military, she said, her tone softening. And as for you, your wound, it's not just a simple injury. We believe it's tied to something much bigger. It's as if this wound holds the key to something long forgotten, something between our species. The human's eyes flickered with a mix of disbelief and curiosity. Your species? You mean you're not human? No, Thalari replied. I am Xerian. The soldier blinked again as though processing the information. Xerian? Are you saying that my wound is connected to you? Thalari nodded slowly, the weight of her words settling heavily between them. Yes, and we need to figure out why. The room fell silent for a moment as both the captain and the soldier stared at each other. There was a strange connection forming, a bond that neither could explain. Thalari knew they were standing at the edge of something important, something that could change everything. But for now, All they could do was wait for answers and hope that the soldier's mysterious wound would lead them to the truth. The medical bay hummed with the quiet buzz of healing equipment as Captain Thalari sat beside the human soldier, her thoughts racing. The room was silent except for the soft beeping of machines and the occasional rustle of movement from Dr. Orcs, who was still tending to the human's injuries. The soldier, whose name was Elias Carter, had drifted in and out of consciousness over the past few hours. Every time he woke, he seemed confused and disoriented, unable to grasp the full scope of what had happened. But as the hours passed, he began to ask fewer questions about his surroundings and more about the wound on his side. It was as though the injury itself had become the center of his attention. Elias's eyes flickered open once more, and he immediately looked down at the wound, which still pulsed faintly. He had barely said a word since his last brief conversation with Thalari, but the concern in his eyes was unmistakable. Thalari noticed the way his fingers twitched toward the glowing wound as though he couldn't resist. The connection between them, the connection to the wound, was undeniable. It was as if the injury was more than just a wound. It was calling to him, speaking to him in ways words couldn't. "Does it hurt?" Thalari asked quietly, her voice almost gentle, unsure how to approach him. She had seen countless injuries before, but this one, with its mysterious glow and strange response, was different. Far more than just an injury. It seemed to have a life of its own. Elias shifted slightly, grimacing. "It's not pain," he said, his voice hoarse but steady. "It's more like something is trying to get my attention. I can feel it inside me, like it's not just in my body but in my mind too. Something's happening, and I don't know what it is." Thalari looked at him, her mind racing. She hadn't shared her own feelings about the wound with him yet, the way it had reacted when she touched it, the strange warmth she had felt, the sensation of connection. She didn't want to confuse him more than he already was, but it was clear they were dealing with something that couldn't be explained by normal medical science. "I think you're right," Thalari said after a moment of thought. "There's something more to this wound than we first realized. It's not just physical. It's as if your body and the wound are part of something bigger, something that is tied to your past and perhaps even to my people." Elias's eyes locked with hers, confusion written clearly on his face. "Your people? What do you mean?" Thalari hesitated, then spoke, her voice soft. "Your wound. It's not just a mark. It's a map. An ancient one. I believe it's a star map, encoded in your body, passed down from the human ancestors, perhaps from before your species was scattered across the galaxy. The glow, the reaction, it's part of something bigger than we understand, and I think it has something to do with my species too." Elias looked at her, eyes widening slightly. "A star map?" he repeated, disbelief in his voice. "What kind of map are you talking about? Why would it be inside me?" "I'm not sure," Thalari admitted, "but I think your wound is a key. A key to unlocking something long lost. Something from the time when humans and Zyrians were allies." The silence in the room grew heavy. Dr. Orcs, who had been quietly monitoring the soldier's vitals, finally spoke up. "Captain, if what you say is true, then this could be extremely important. If this wound is truly a map, one that only a human can read, it could hold the key to finding something long forgotten, something that might bring both our species together." Thalari nodded slowly. "Yes, and that is why we need to help him." Elias, who had been listening quietly, slowly sat up, wincing at the pain in his side but determined to understand what was happening to him. "So you're saying my body's carrying some kind of ancient map, and you think it has something to do with you, with your species?" "Yes," Thalari said. "Long ago, humans and Zyrians were united, but something tore us apart. It's possible that this map holds the location of something crucial, something that could change the balance of power between our people, or perhaps lead to the restoration of our ancient alliance." Elias frowned, running his hand over his forehead as if trying to grasp the weight of her words. But why me? Why would I be the one carrying this? I'm just a soldier. I don't know anything about maps or alliances. Talari's voice softened. I don't have all the answers, Elias, but sometimes the universe works in mysterious ways. You may not know why you have this map, but I believe it's connected to you for a reason. Dr. Eric stepped forward, his eyes locked on the glowing wound. Captain, the pulse from the wound, it's unlike anything I've ever seen. It's almost like a signal that only a select few could recognize. Perhaps there are others out there waiting to decipher it. And perhaps those others could be the key to unlocking the secrets of the ancient alliance. The doctor's words hung in the air, full of weight and mystery. Talari looked back at Elias, seeing the doubt and confusion in his eyes. But there was something else there too, a spark of curiosity, of wonder, that made her believe he might be ready to take on this challenge. Do you want to know more? Talari asked, her voice gentle yet firm. Do you want to uncover the truth behind this wound, behind the map inside you? Elias hesitated, then nodded. I want to understand. I don't know if I'm ready for this, but I can't ignore it. If there's something out there, something that could bring us together, then I want to find it. Talari stood tall, a quiet determination in her posture. Then we begin. Together. As Elias nodded in agreement, the faint pulse of the wound seemed to grow stronger, as if it recognized the moment they had just shared. The journey ahead would be long and the path uncertain, but for the first time, both of them knew one thing for sure. They were about to uncover something that would change the course of their histories forever. The next few days aboard the Xerian ship were filled with uncertainty and discovery. Captain Talari and Elias Carter spent much of their time together, trying to decipher the strange wound that had become the center of their mission. Every time Elias moved or shifted, the wound seemed to respond, its faint blue glow pulsing almost as if it were a living thing, beckoning them to understand its secrets. Elias had begun to adjust to life aboard the Xerian ship, but his mind was still spinning. He couldn't stop thinking about the ancient map inside him. How had it come to be there? And why had it chosen him? Talari had suggested that his body had somehow inherited the map from his ancestors, but Elias couldn't wrap his mind around the idea of being the carrier of such an important relic. One evening, as the ship traveled deeper into the unknown reaches of space, Elias found himself in the ship's observation deck, staring out into the vastness of the stars. The silence of space was both peaceful and unsettling, and he couldn't shake the feeling that something was about to happen, that somehow his life had changed forever. Talari entered quietly, standing beside him. She didn't speak right away, but simply stood there, gazing out at the stars with him. After a long moment, she broke the silence. I've been thinking, she began softly, about the map inside you. Elias turned to her, his eyes tired but curious. What about it? Something feels familiar about it. It's as if I've seen it before, in the ancient records of my people, but the knowledge is scattered, lost over time. Talari paused, her mind racing. Perhaps this map was not just a tool for navigation, it could be a message, a warning. Elias frowned. A warning? What could it warn about? I don't know yet, Talari admitted. But I think it's tied to a time long before our people were separated. The humans and Xerians, we were once allies, united in purpose and strength. We fought together, against a threat that came from the stars themselves. Elias raised an eyebrow. A threat? From the stars? Talari nodded. Yes. My people's ancient records tell of an invasion, a terrible event that almost wiped us all out. But the humans were there, standing alongside us. The records speak of a great war, and after it a peace was made. But the war left scars on both our peoples, and over time those scars turned into divisions. That doesn't sound like the humans I know, Elias said slowly. We're fighters, sure, but I've never heard of anything like that. That's because the war is forgotten, lost, buried, Talari replied. When the peace was established, both our peoples agreed to forget the past. and with time the connection between us was broken. But I believe your wound, this map, is the key to unlocking the truth. Elias took a deep breath, processing the words. So, you think this map was created to guide us back to a time when humans and Xerians were united? Exactly, Thalari said, her voice growing more certain. And I believe that if we follow it, we can uncover what happened and what we lost. There may be a way to bring our people back together. Elias stared at her, his mind whirling. He had never been part of any grand alliance, nor had he ever considered the idea that humanity's history might be intertwined with another species in such a significant way. He had been raised to believe that Earth's past was separate from the stars, that it was the humans against the universe. But now, standing here with Thalari, he realized how little he truly understood. "What's our first step?" he asked. Thalari looked at him with a steady gaze. "We follow the map. We need to find the place it leads to. I believe it's somewhere in deep space beyond the known systems, somewhere that has been hidden for centuries." Elias nodded, his mind still full of questions, but he could sense the urgency in Thalari's words. This was important. This wasn't just about him anymore. It was about something far greater. He had a feeling that he was about to uncover a piece of history that had been lost to both his people and the Xerians. The following day they began their journey. The ship's engines hummed as they set a course toward the distant star systems the map indicated. It was a treacherous path, filled with dangerous asteroids and unknown territories, but Thalari and her crew were experienced. Elias, still recovering from his injuries, spent most of his time in the medical bay, but he would often wander to the observation deck, staring out at the stars and thinking about he'd venture ahead. One day, as they neared a particularly remote system marked on the map, Elias felt something change. The wound on his side seemed to react, pulsing with greater intensity than before. He pressed his hand to it, trying to calm himself, but the sensation only grew stronger. "Thalari," he called, his voice urgent. "I think it's reacting again." Thalari quickly joined him in the observation deck. She studied his expression, then glanced at the glowing wound on his side. "It's responding to something ahead," she said. "We're close, very close." Elias could feel the pull, the connection between the wound and the stars. The map was guiding them, leading them toward something important, something ancient. His heart raced with anticipation. He had no idea what they would find, but he knew one thing for sure. Their journey was about to reveal something that could change everything. As the ship neared the edge of the unknown system, the lights aboard the ship flickered and a sense of tension filled the air. The destination was close. And Elias knew, deep down, that whatever awaited them on the other side of this journey would not only change his life, it would change the fate of both humans and Xerians forever. The journey through the unknown star systems had been uneventful until the last few hours. As the ship ventured deeper into the uncharted regions, a growing tension settled over Captain Thalari and Elias Carter. The wound on Elias's side had been glowing more intensely with each passing moment, and Elias could feel its pull as they neared their destination. It was as though the map inside him was urging them forward. Thalari stood beside the console, watching the swirling nebulae and stars as the ship sliced through space. The star map inside Elias, hidden beneath his skin, was becoming more and more responsive. There was no doubt about it. They were getting closer to something important, something that had been hidden for centuries. But there was something else, something that had started to feel wrong. Thalari's hand hovered over the communication panel, her brow furrowed. "Lieutenant Elin," she said, her voice steady but concerned. "Have we received any messages from the fleet?" "No," came Elin's voice over the comm. "Nothing from the fleet, we're clear." "Good," Thalari replied. She paused for a moment before speaking again. "Keep an eye out for anything unusual." Elin's voice crackled with a note of uncertainty. "Understood, Captain, but we've been alone for days. Nothing's out here." Thalari didn't answer, but her instincts were on edge. She knew the Xerian fleet was far behind them, and they had been given orders to follow the map's signal without interference. but she couldn't shake the feeling that they weren't entirely alone in this part of space. As if on cue, a blaring alarm rang through the ship. "Evasive maneuvers!" Thalari shouted, her voice sharp with authority. The ship jolted as she spun to the command console, trying to identify the source of the threat. "Unknown craft approaching fast." Elon's voice rang out from the navigation station. "It's coming in at a high velocity." "Prepare for combat," Thalari ordered, her heart pounding. She could feel the sudden rush of adrenaline in her veins as the familiar battle readiness took over. Zyrian warriors were trained for moments like this, but it didn't make the tension any easier to bear. The unknown craft shot toward them with terrifying speed, its dark silhouette now visible against the backdrop of stars. It was sleek, built for stealth, and it carried a heavy, menacing presence. The ship's markings were unfamiliar, definitely not Terran, and certainly not Zyrian. Whoever, or whatever, was on that ship had no intention of negotiating. Thalari looked at Elias, whose expression had hardened, his hand instinctively resting on the side of his wound. The glowing map inside him pulsed more strongly now, as if it recognized the danger. "Elias," Thalari said quickly, her tone urgent. "Do you feel that? The map, it's reacting." Elias nodded, a look of realization crossing his face. "I think it's trying to tell us something, but I don't know what." Before Thalari could respond, the comm crackled again, this time with a strange, distorted voice. The words were almost incomprehensible, but the tone was unmistakably hostile. "This is a warning," the voice growled. "Turn back now, or face the consequences." Thalari's eyes narrowed. "Who is this?" she demanded, her voice cool but laced, with authority. "What do you want?" There was a brief silence before the voice returned, now clearer but filled with cold malice. "You are trespassing on forbidden ground. The map you follow, it belongs to us. You will turn around, or we will make you regret it." Elias looked at Thalari, his face pale. "Do you think they're talking about the map? The one inside me?" Thalari's mind raced. The voice had confirmed what she feared. Someone else was after the map. Whoever these people were, they were clearly aware of its existence, and they would stop at nothing to keep it hidden. "Lieutenant Elon," Thalari ordered, her voice firm. "Prepare weapons, we may need to fight." Elias shook his head, his voice shaky. "Captain, we can't fight them. I don't even know who they are. But if they have been looking for the map as long as we have, they're not going to let us go that easily." Thalari's eyes hardened. "We have no choice. We can't turn back." "Now, the map will lead us forward. We must protect it. And you." The craft closed in, and soon Thalari could see the hostile ship's sleek design in more detail. It was much smaller than the Zyrian vessel, but it was heavily armed with weapons, visible along its sides. She had little doubt that this would be a fight to the end. "Captain, they're locking weapons onto us," Elon warned, his voice tight with anxiety. "We need to act fast." Thalari gave the order to fire, and the ship's weapons released a volley of energy blasts toward the oncoming craft. The enemy ship swerved to avoid the shots, but it wasn't fast enough. A direct hit struck one of its engines, causing it to falter in its approach, but the enemy ship quickly recovered, returning fire. The Zyrian ship shuddered as blasts rang against its shields, the impact rattling everyone inside. Thalari gritted her teeth. "All crew, prepare for combat. We will not let them take the map." Elias gripped the edge of the console, trying to steady himself. The wound on his side burned with a fierce intensity, as though responding to the violence around him. He could feel the map deep within him calling him forward, pushing him to make a decision. "We have to keep going," Elias said, his voice steady despite the chaos. "We're so close." Thalari looked at him, her determination matching his. "Yes, we will protect the map, and we will see this mission through, whatever happens." As the battle raged around them, the ship's forward path was clear. They could either fight their way through this hostile force or be forced to turn back. But Thalari knew one thing for certain: they couldn't afford to fail. The secrets that lay ahead were too important, and Elias's role in this was more critical than ever. The tension was palpable as both ships continued their deadly dance, locked in a battle that would determine the future of both their peoples. And in the midst of it all, Elias could feel the map pulsing, drawing him toward the unknown. Whatever awaited them at the end of this journey, he had to follow it. He had no choice. The battle was fierce, but Captain Thalari wasn't about to let it define their fate. Her mind raced as the Xerian ship bucked under the force of enemy fire. The shields held for now, but it was clear the hostile vessel was determined to end their mission. "Hold steady," Thalari shouted, her voice cutting through the commotion, in the command center. She gripped the armrest of her seat, her eyes darting between the readouts flashing on the screens. "Return fire. Keep them at a distance." The Xerian crew worked efficiently, firing back at the enemy ship in sharp bursts. But it was clear this wasn't going to be an easy fight. The hostile vessel was agile and well-armed, dodging every shot that came its way. Thalari's fists clenched. They needed to escape. Elias, still feeling the strange pull from his wound, stood near the back of the room, his hand hovering over the glowing mark on his side. The pulsing was stronger now, an undeniable force that seemed to be guiding him, calling him forward. His head throbbed with the intensity of it. "Thalari," Elias said, his voice urgent. "I think it's trying to tell me something. The map. It's pointing us somewhere. If we follow it, we can get away from here." Thalari turned toward him, her face a mask of determination and concern. "Do you have any idea where it's leading?" "Us?" she asked, gripping her console tightly as another blast rocked the ship. Elias hesitated for a moment, then nodded. "It's not just about the map. It's the feeling I'm getting. It's like it's showing me the way. I know where we need to go. We can lose them if we head into the core." "The core?" Thalari repeated, a moment of doubt flashing across her face. "That's dangerous. It's uncharted territory." "I know," Elias said quickly. "But if we stay here, we're not going to survive. We have to trust the map. It's the only chance we have." Thalari studied him for a moment, her mind weighing the risks. The core was a vast, dangerous region of space, filled with asteroid fields, black holes, and other deadly phenomena. But if Elias was right, and if the map inside him truly held the answers, they had no choice but to follow it. "Prepare the ship for a course change," Thalari ordered. "Set a course for the core, full speed ahead." "Understood, Captain," came the quick response from Lieutenant Elan. The Xerian ship veered away from the enemy vessel, pushing forward at full speed. The hostile ship followed them for a brief moment, firing one last volley of energy blasts. But then, it seemed to hesitate. The pursuit stopped as abruptly as it had begun, and the enemy ship pulled away, retreating into the distance. Elias exhaled slowly, his chest tight with relief. That was too close. "Indeed," Thalari replied, her voice calm but filled with the weight of their situation. "But we're not out of danger yet." As the ship surged forward, Thalari looked at Elias, her mind racing. If they were going to survive, they needed to figure out more about the map inside him. If the hostile ship had been looking for it, then others could be out there, searching too. And who knew how many enemies they might face as they moved deeper into uncharted space. "The core will be our best chance," Thalari said after a long moment. "But we'll need to prepare for what's ahead. If there are others like them, they won't give up easily." "I'm ready," Elias said, his voice steady. "I don't know what's waiting for us, but I know the map is leading us in the right direction. I can feel it. It's like the path is opening up in front of us." The ship cut through the darkness, stars streaking past them at incredible speeds. Elias had never felt so connected to something in his life. The pulsing in his wound had grown more intense, now a steady hum that seemed to resonate deep within him. The map was guiding him, but it was also changing him. The longer he stayed connected to it, the more he felt as though he was becoming part of it. A soft chime echoed through the ship's intercom, and Thalari's attention snapped to the console. "Captain," Elan said, his voice urgent. "We're entering the core. We've reached the coordinates the map provided." "Good," Thalari said, her voice tinged with both excitement and caution. "Keep the ship steady. Let's see what we've come for." The ship entered a new region of space. a strange and eerie place where the stars seemed to disappear, swallowed by the dense, chaotic fields of the core. The space around them twisted, and the ship rocked slightly as it passed through hidden asteroid clusters. It was a breathtaking sight, but one filled with danger. Thalari knew that in this part of space nothing was predictable, but something deep within her told her they were heading in the right direction. "Elias," Thalari said after a pause, her voice quiet. "What do you see?" Elias stared out of the observation window, his eyes wide with wonder. The stars were distant here, and the darkness stretched endlessly. But there was something else, something glowing faintly in the distance. "See something?" Elias said slowly, his voice filled with awe. "It's like a beacon. It's calling to me." Thalari's heart skipped a beat. Could it be? Was this the place they had been searching for? The place that held the answers to the past? "Set a course for the beacon," Thalari ordered. "All hands, brace for whatever comes next." The Zarian ship adjusted its course, heading directly toward the glowing light in the distance. As they moved closer, the energy from Elias's wound grew stronger, pulling him forward as though the map inside him was guiding him to something greater. Elias didn't know what awaited them at the beacon, but he knew one thing for sure. Whatever, it was about to change everything. And for the first time in his life, he felt that he was part of something bigger, something ancient, something that could heal the rift between humans and Zarians, and perhaps even save both their worlds, as he did. The ship drew closer to the beacon. Elias could feel the map reaching its peak. The answers were just ahead. The truth was within their grasp, and nothing, no enemy, no danger, could stop them now. The ship neared the glowing beacon, its steady hum filling the quiet tension that hung in the air. Captain Thalari stood at the command console, her eyes fixed on the distant light that beckoned them forward. Elias Carter stood beside her, his hand still resting over the wound on his side. The faint pulse of the map grew stronger with each passing moment, a rhythmic hum that resounded deep inside him. "Do you feel it?" Thalari asked, her voice almost a whisper, as if afraid to break the fragile silence that had settled between them. Elias nodded, his expression distant as he gazed at the distant light. "Yes, it's calling me, guiding me. I can't explain it, but I know we're meant to be here." Thalari felt a chill run down her spine. The map had led them this far, through battle, through danger, through uncertainty. And now, as they approached the beacon, she knew that this was the moment when everything would change. It wasn't just a map to a location. It was a map to the truth, to the forgotten history of both their peoples. The stars around them seemed to dim as the ship approached the beacon, and soon, a strange mist surrounded them. It wasn't fog or gas. It was something different, something ancient. Thalari's breath caught in her throat as she realized they were moving through something alive, something connected to the stars themselves. "Elias," Thalari said, her voice tight with awe. "This is it. Whatever this is, whatever lies ahead, it's not just about your wound. It's about both of us, the humans and the Zarians." Elias looked at her, his eyes full of questions. "What do you mean? What do you think we'll find here?" "I don't know," Thalari admitted. "But I believe this is where our histories meet, where our people were once united." The ship shuddered as it entered the heart of the glowing field, and the beacon's light grew brighter, nearly blinding. The hum inside Elias's chest, deep within his wound, reached its peak. His entire body seemed to vibrate in sync with the pulsing energy. It was like he was becoming one with the light, with the very map inside him. "Elias!" Thalari called out, her voice suddenly filled with urgency. "Hold on. Whatever happens next, you must stay focused. This is the moment. The truth we've been seeking is within reach." He nodded, his mind clearer than it had ever been. He could feel the map in his chest, and it was more than just a relic of the past. It was alive. He understood now. It wasn't just a piece of history. It was a key. a living memory from an ancient time when humans and Xyrians fought together against a great threat. The beacon wasn't just a signal, it was a reminder of that unity. Suddenly the ship's screens flickered and a soft, ancient voice filled the room. It wasn't in any language Elias or Thalari knew, but the meaning was clear. This place was a library of the past, a place of knowledge that had been hidden for millennia. The voice spoke again, this time clearer in a language they both understood. The path of unity lies before you. The stars will remember. Elias and Thalari shared a look of realization. The map, the beacon, it wasn't just a map of space. It was a map of history, of a time when their two species were not enemies but allies. This beacon was not just a place, it was the last remaining link between them, a memory of what had once been, and a hope for what could be again. Elias, Thalari said, her voice soft but filled with wonder. The stars, they remember. Your ancestors, my ancestors, they fought together. This is where it all began. Elias's heart raced. He felt a connection to the stars, to the ancient beings who had once roamed this very space. The wound on his side flared and a burst of light erupted from it, illuminating the ship and surrounding them in a brilliant glow. He staggered back, overwhelmed by the energy. "Captain," Elias cried, out struggling to keep his balance. It's too much." Thalari reached out to steady him, her heart pounding. "Elias, stay with me. This is the truth we've been searching for. You must endure this." Elias closed his eyes, letting the energy flow through him, trusting the map, trusting the connection. He could feel the past. He could feel the memories of a time when their species were united, when their strength together was unmatched. Then, as suddenly as it had begun, the energy receded. The glow in Elias's side faded, and the ship returned to its normal state. The humming ceased, and the silence was deafening. Thalari let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. "Is it over?" Elias asked, his voice weary but filled with understanding. "I think it is," Thalari replied, her gaze focused on the now dim beacon. "We've uncovered the truth, Elias. The map, it wasn't just a physical location. It was a memory, a reminder of who we were and who we could become again." Elias nodded slowly, his chest still aching with the remnants of the energy that had coursed through him. "So, what now?" Thalari took a deep breath. "Now, we return to our people. We show them what we found. The path to unity is still ahead of us, but we can't walk it alone. We must bring them together, the humans and the Xyrians." Elias looked out of the observation window, his mind racing with the possibilities. He had been a soldier, just one person in a vast galaxy, but now he realized he was a part of something far greater, something that could change the course of history. Thalari placed a hand on his shoulder. "Are you ready?" Elias smiled for the first time since the journey began. "I don't know what the future holds, but I know one thing. I'm not walking it alone." Together they turned their ship toward the stars, toward home. The path ahead was uncertain, but for the first time both knew that the future of both their peoples lay in their hands. And no matter the challenges, they would face them together.